I'm Amanda Pratt, licensed clinical social worker in Florida and licensed master social worker in Michigan, the chronic illness therapist. I am coming to you with a new video from my bed today because I'm having a POTS flare that's been pretty bad and I'm having a hard time just standing up. So I'm going to adapt to my needs and keep moving forward. So today the video topic is, why are we such irrational thinkers? And 3 types of irrational thoughts we have, how they've helped us and how they're hurting us now, and what we can do about it. So when we're talking about irrational thoughts, we're talking about thoughts that are not based on evidence. In other words, facts, support actual realities. And we have many of these as humans, and one of the things I tell my clients is that we as humans naturally think irrationally. So we actually have to do more work to counteract this. And there's reasons for this that make a lot of sense. And so it's really validating and also helpful, I think, to know that you're not weird or abnormal, and there's not anything wrong with you for having irrational thoughts. We all do it, and it actually has served a purpose for us. So once you understand the purpose it serves, you can more easily move past the irrational thoughts and see them for what they are. So the first type of irrational thought we have is predicting worst case scenarios. So worst case scenarios, basically where we look at a situation and we assume that the worst thing is going to happen. If I do this, X, Y, and Z will happen or could happen, and that is bad. I don't want that to happen. So first, the reason that this has been helpful to us in the past is because it's helped us survive. So, assuming that a worst case scenario will happen helps us predict possible danger, and it's safer to assume the worst and not have anything happen than it is to assume nothing will happen and then maybe have missed it and run into danger you didn't expect. So from an evolutionary standpoint, assuming the worst makes us safer and makes us more likely to survive. The problem is, how it's hurting us now, is that, this served us at a time when we were maybe cave people and we were living, in a world where animals or creatures or any danger was more unexpected and we were less protected. Now, in the modern day, the dangers that we tend to assume are cognitive in nature. They're not actually realistic. And so what it does is it causes us to avoid certain situations. And so the more we avoid things, the more we're missing out on opportunities, ways we could be living our life to the fullest. And again, these things aren't actually protecting our survival now because we have so much more longer lives in terms of advanced medicine and technology. So we just don't need to always predict the worst case scenario anymore. So the second way that we think irrationally is by ruminating on the past. So ruminating on the past has helped us because if we looked at a situation or got stuck thinking about a dangerous or traumatic experience we had, again, back in the day, it helped us avoid future danger. We would use that information to learn from our past mistakes, adapt our behaviors, and therefore it increased our chances of survival. Now it's actually hurting us because we're ruminating more and more, and the actual chances of danger have become less and less. So this process just isn't helpful for us anymore. It's actually become toxic. And in the past, you know, our past that we tend to ruminate on are really things that we can't change. If we can adapt and learn from these things, great. But ruminating implies that we just stay stuck in a loop thinking about it. If we move on to problem solving and we can and turn it into a way to change our behavior or a recognition of something we need to change, then great. That's adaptive. But our survival just doesn't depend on ruminating anymore, and so it's more hurtful than helpful. The third type of irrational thought we have is worrying about what others think about us. So in the past, this again has helped with survival. When we, were cave people or early on in our evolution, one of the ways that we survived was by associating with a group of people, and in order to stay in that group of people for protection, we had to learn what the expectations were. We had to maintain our positions in those groups, learn how to cooperate and contribute so people saw us as useful members of that group. And the more we did this, the more we were able to use that group or tribe in order to maintain our survival and protect ourselves and have resources. How it's hurting us now is, the more that we worry about what other people think about us and try to adapt to their expectations, now it's leaving us socially isolated and lonely. And actually, with the introduction of social media and the internet, it is not being used as a means of survival, and it's actually causing us to police our behavior so much that in order to be included, it leaves us feeling as though our actual authentic voice or our authentic style or our authentic selves are not good enough to be included, and therefore, no matter what, we always feel excluded, even when we strive to fit into a group. And this really actually is impacting us in a negative way because it's leaving us less likely to maintain our position in groups. And we know that to a certain extent, being a member of a social group, feeling like we belong to a community, is actually a protective factor for a lot of reasons. So we want to keep an eye on these irrational types of thoughts. And so here are some things that we can do as a way to kind of counteract these. First, the biggest thing we can do is develop a better relationship with ourselves. So we want to nurture our own self-authenticity. We want to put ourselves first and learn to recognize what our needs are and honor those and be true to those as much as possible. The second thing we can do is recognize and remind ourselves that certain thought processes we have helped us survive at one point in time in the past, and these same processes just may not be helpful in modern day times, and that's okay. The third thing we want to do is practice observing our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and not necessarily getting caught up in them or engaging in them, and choosing our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with intention, and learning to process them and recognize them and become more self-aware so that we have opportunities to change the course of those thoughts, feelings, and behaviors if and when necessary. So hopefully this helped some of you. Just a little kind of psychology, cognitive 101 with some tips and tricks to help. I think all of these little facts and tidbits can help in our daily lives, reduce stress, manage our emotions better, and also manage and process and interpret things as they come up. So again, this is Amanda Pratt, licensed clinical social worker in Florida, licensed master social worker in Michigan, the chronic illness therapist, and I hope you all have a great week. Bye.